Hey guys, subscribe for daily content. And if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks!
What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and welcome to this week's episode of The Knife Guy. So what are we talking about today? I have a lot of the same aesthetic of knife out on the table. That's on purpose. We'll get to that. So I want to talk about something today that I think really... I kind of want to be over dramatic and say it plagues the newer part of the knife community, but I think that's a bit too over dramatic. Let's say this is a very common mindset, and it is a mindset that I used to have. In fact, I would venture to guess that the vast majority of us coming into the knife world had this mindset. This channel is largely dedicated to helping people understand knives in a more, I don't know, instead of looking at them as one type of thing, right? This helps new people. There's a lot of confusion when you're new, right? It can be difficult. It can be frustrating. And there's a sort of a human urge, a necessity to simplify things so that it doesn't like upset your world, right? And the truth about pocket knives is there's just a lot more information than people care to understand, right? And I think that that's totally okay. I've said many times, when I poke fun at a certain type of reasoning or thought process, it's because it's not the majority. It's a small, loud group of people, and it seems to be a consistency. And there's it derives from a certain type of audience, right? And so I crack jokes like the cold steel 4-max guy, right? I've got that. And the gatekeepers and the wizards and all the blah blah blah. I've got everything. But when I was newer, let's make it about me. When I was newer, I remember going and looking at pocket knives at Walmart and Cabela's and things like that. And in my mind, a pocket knife was something that cost. I honestly didn't think about it too much. But if somebody were to come up and ask me and say, "What do you think a pocket knife should cost?" I don't know, $20, right? Right around there, $20-25. That's what you see them at the gas station counter. That's where the vast majority of us saw them the most, right? Even if it's just you're just logging it away in your subconscious, you're like, $19.99 for something rain tactical frost something, right? You don't really think about it. It's $20, right? I remember at Walmart seeing some a little bit more aggressive looking knives. And those are a little bit more expensive. Oh, okay, I get it. Without there being any actual indicator, what your brain does is it goes, clearly these are like combat knives, right? And of course, a knife's only function is for combat, right? I mean, what else could it possibly be besides a weapon, right? So the more weapony it is, the more it costs. Clearly, yes. That's all I need to understand about this world. I've got it all figured out, right? And this is, again, all based on walking up to a knife counter and noticing that the tactical-looking ones are slightly more expensive. That's as far as it goes for a lot of people. And when I say a lot of people, I mean, holy crap, like the vast majority of people who have never bothered to step beyond that, right? YouTube Shorts for me has been a huge blessing and also a massive annoyance, because what it does, since YouTube is heavily pushing it, and I'm fortunate that it's been favoring a lot of my short content, what it's doing is it's throwing a lot of my shorts out to like everybody, right? Pocket knives are one of those things that will attract people whether they know a lot about them or not. So when I make a YouTube short and YouTube throws it out to the world, I get a few people who know what they're looking at, and then I get a whole bunch of people who have this exact mindset that I have just described. Knives are weapons. They are designed to do exactly one thing and one thing only, right? So there's a hard barrier for function and capability, and anything that costs more than that is silly, because this knife that costs this much can do the same thing. It can just the same, right? And this is oversimplification to justify your own personal value balance, right? And this is typical of short form content, right? I think the people who engage with this stuff the most are people who have very, very short attention spans and don't really want to bother looking into anything, which is understandable, right? We all kind of like to scroll. But the hard truth is that there are a few different layers to this. If you're new and you're like, you got my attention, you're describing my process, my thought process. I know the vast majority of people who watch Knife Guy do not think like this. But if I've caught your attention because this is your thought process, I'm about to peel back the layers of the onion here. Probably in a way that's very satisfying to people who've been around for a while. What we're actually experiencing here is a very simple form of marketing, right? So to people who view, and this is truthfully, it's the vast majority of people. You can't blame anybody. It's not like, I can't sit here and be like, only stupid people think like this. No, that's not true at all. They're not stupid. It's just like, this is what's presented to them, and they're left to conclude based on, the tools at their the tools at their disposal in that moment, using deductive reasoning based on everything they've experienced. I see. Regular pocket knife cost blah. More expensive knife, it must be more expensive because it is designed for combat specialists. Super Ultra Ninja 9000, probably military, law enforcement, blah, blah, blah. Right? This mindset has been a thing for a very long time. And companies caught on to it. Not recently. Not a year ago, not 5 years ago, not 10 years ago. I mean, it's been longer than 20 years. They go, oh, so people are willing to pay more money for things that are generally considered to be weapons, right? I mean, to the common, the everyman, right? The average person, a knife is a weapon before it's a tool. That's just the mindset that people kind of adopt because, I mean, we all know why, right? Media and blah, blah, blah. And it looks scary, right? When again, the truth is that the vast majority of crimes committed with knives are actually committed with things like kitchen knives, right? It's very rare that someone's actually using a combat designed folding knife or fixed blade to do that kind of thing, right? But this is mass, it's just like mass misinformation. It is what it is, right? If you've been involved in the knife world, that we've had to deal with this crap for a long time. So knife companies figure out, okay, so you got X amount of people who are just so afraid of them that they're not interested, but you got a lot of people who are now more interested because it's specialized. So if it looks more like a weapon, if it looks more tactical, people are willing to spend more money. Do we need to define tactical? And here's the answer. No. Ask 100 different people what tactical means, and I can almost guarantee you will get 100 different answers. The definition of tactical is so muddied and hilariously unclear. It is the ultimate marketing tool. What's the cherry on top? We're missing one element. How do we cap this off? Make it black. Make it black! That's all you gotta do, right? These elements here will take a $20 knife and turn it into a $60 knife like that, right? That's the hard line. The hard tactical marketing line. You can make triple for people who don't know better. Number one, knives can only be weapons, right? This is the mindset of the passerby at the Walmart knife counter, right? Knives are weapons because whatever, I don't know, maybe you just like Steven Seagal movies or what. We all do, right? We all like those types of movies, right? You are what you've been exposed to. Right? This is why we're attracted to them. It's the same reason that you like this stuff when you were a kid. When I was a kid, every stick I picked up was a sword. And if it was a broken stick, it was a knife. Why would it be anything else? And what am I going to do with that, right? I'm going to pretend that I used to fight evergreen trees. Man, that was a sad... I used to stand in my backyard and literally fight evergreen trees with sticks. That's what it was. It was my imagination. It's all derived from childhood, right? How we're presented blades of any type are presented to us as weapons. So it's not, I mean, it's funny, those of us who have been in the knife world for a long time and have, we got all the information now. But, looking back to how you stepped into this, it's really funny. You can actually see this with certain people. It's, the guy, everybody's seen the video of the guy that goes to the counter and what does he say? Can I whip it, or can I, I don't know what he says, but he starts doing that thing where he's like, and he's like, dude, this guy has lived that life, and he is convinced, right, that he is a combat specialist, that this is like a meaningful test of like agility and reflexes or something. I don't know, right? But that's what happens when this guy never got stopped. He never got corrected. No one ever explained it to him like, dude, this is not like, this isn't actual reality, right? This is just you thinking one way and never actually being corrected, right? Now, I should have said this right at the beginning, because I'm 10 minutes in. I know there's going to be a few people who watch it for 1 minute, and they're going to jump in and say, so you're trying to tell me that no knives have ever been specifically designed for combat? No, that's not what I'm saying at all. I absolutely believe that there are purposeful designs that are really, truly designed for combat, and it is not necessarily a marketing tool, right? Now, a lot of us have friends who are military, law enforcement, right, etc. And if you do, then you know that a lot of these guys, a lot of my friends will just carry, they all carry knives, but some of them carry like regular junky knives, right? There's not like a vault, and they like open it up and it's like steam. They're like, you'll all be outfitted with the latest in tech, right? And there's these like black Pelican cases that open up, and it's of course everything's black. There's like a grappling hook, and there's like a single flashbang grenade, and there's like what looks like a tiny rocket launcher, and then there's like a black knife. They don't bother explaining. They're just like, it's made from the most advanced technology, the hardest of materials, and it's black. Right? I think that's how a lot of people view it. No, there are. I think in some cases, in some special cases, there are knives that are issued, but they're not like crazy over the top. I got one buddy who carries. He's a state trooper. He carries a Microtech Ultratech, and the reason he carries that is because I introduced them. I let him handle some of my Microtechs locally, and he was like, I've always wondered about these, right? So he carries a Microtech. I got another buddy who carries a fixed Nimravis from Benchmade. Those are the only two guys. I got a lot of friends that are law enforcement, military. Super nice guys. Those are the only two that carry anything even remotely premium. Everybody else just carries whatever, right? Are there designs that are more specifically suited for combat? Yes. Many of them are fixed blades, right? And these designs are very, very old. But knife companies figured out a long time ago that you can market this, right? You don't have to be a combat specialist. You can buy that combat specialism. Why go through all the training, right? Why put yourself through all of the physical this or that when you could just buy the ability, right? It's kind of like how, like a lot of Batman's superpowers come from his stuff. His utility belt, right? So, people think, paying this much money for this thing that I'm convinced based on what I won't admit out loud is a complete and total lack of understanding for anything. But it looks the part, right? I seen it in the movies. They're usually black and serrated, and I guess they're just lines, but they look pretty serious. So I'm pretty sure. But why would they even make it look serious if it's not supposed to be serious? The more I say this out loud, the more I question my entire thought process leading up to this point. It's one of those things, the more you think about it, the more silly it is. But because it is viewed that way, right, there's a hard wall of value. What I've noticed in my shorts, right, it was this one, right, the John Wick. Of course this one did it. Now, to those of us who know what this is, right, you know that this is not just a knife. And of course, a knife is not just a weapon. And there is nowhere, anywhere in any of Hawk's marketing that specifically says this is designed as a combat weapon, right? I mean, that's multi-purpose. It could be a weapon. So could a rolling pin, right? I mean, I could get a rock out here and just paint it black, or we could paint it red or whatever color and be like, it's a combat rock. It's combat ready. So what you do is you put 1 foot forward and you got to get in a tactical stance first, right? The adversary's coming at you. In this specific scenario that I have created purposefully to sell this product, don't worry about that. The adversary's quite a ways off, right? Which means you have a tactical advantage, not just because of distance, but because you have the combat ready rock, right? Patent pending. What you do is you put your arm up into a tactical throwing position. Try to imagine the trajectory of the combat ready rock, the end of the trajectory resulting in impact with the adversary's face, right? I could make this whole commercial. Anything can be combat ready. It depends on how you use it, right? For the most part, if you're new, you got to understand this. This is marketing. Cold Steel is an amazing example of this fattest, juiciest hook that has absolutely, and I know there's people watching who's got Cold Steels in their pocket and they just, I feel personally attacked. Here's the cool thing. The interesting and fun and unique thing about Cold Steel, their knives are truly durable, capable. Yes, of course, they can be used as weapons, but I mean, so can anything. The nice thing about Cold Steel is they're durable. Like, I mean, in a proper usage environment, and here's something that's going to slap you in the face, right? I mean, like a Thanksgiving turkey tied to the end of a canoe paddle being whipped at your face at 60 miles an hour, right? Here's a hard truth. The vast majority of knives are not only not designed as weapons, they're not used as weapons. It is extremely rare, extraordinarily rare, that these knives that, consume a lot of our extra time, it's extraordinarily rare that any of them are used in self-defense or offensive, combative situations. It is ridiculously rare. Let me tell you what the vast majority of people are doing with them. They are cutting open Amazon packages that contain additional knives. That, or they're sitting on their couch flipping it while watching videos like this. That is what they're doing. That's not what they're telling themselves, right? They're telling themselves, if somebody ever broke in here, they'd have to deal with my Smith & Wesson Combat Supreme Ultra 6000 Black Tactical Ninja Surprise, right? I mean, I don't need the training. Just gotta let the knife do the work. Don't let the tool control you. Just control the tool. You gotta let the tool do the work. It's designed to be efficient. Designed to be aerodynamic. Turn. Glides through the air. The surface is smooth with the coated something. I can't remember what the commercial said, but the idea is I can get him before he can get me. And if he tries to come in here while I'm laying on the couch watching my knife videos, oh boy, he's in for a surprise. I bought the most tactical. Well, actually, I'm not really sure. I bought the coolest one in the Walmart case, and I'm pretty sure that something on the box said something about it being designed by someone who used to teach a tactical. He was a combat specialist. I'm pretty sure. I don't know. I threw the box away. Come on. You're kidding yourself. Yeah, that's a big joke. It's marketing, right? Even the Combat Troodon. The Microtech Combat Troodon. Look at this. This particular one doesn't even have a tip, honestly. I mean, it's almost like Microtech is laughing at the people who take it too seriously, right? The value of something, and the vast majority of you know this, the cost that goes into the knife has nothing to do with how, I mean, of course, obviously, edge geometry, the composition, right? How well it's heat treated, all of that. A certain level of performance goes into the value, right? But it is the time it took to create the object and where they actually made it that will determine the overall cost of it. And this is something that's extremely difficult for the guys stuck at the barrier, right? We'll just call it the barrier. They're stuck behind that. It's very difficult to change your mindset. You've dedicated a certain amount of time and energy to a very specific thought process, right? Maybe invested additional, right? I mean, you've even gotten into the enthusiast level of it. To have somebody say like, hey man, that's really a lot of that is just marketing. It's not likely you're going to want to fold, right? You're going to defend. So the natural reaction, of course, is for once they find out that there are pocket knives that look kind of the part, right? These are all black. That's literally it. Wait a minute. You're trying to tell me? I mean, everybody knows that the John Wick 4 deadlock case is going to cost $3,500, right? This is obviously a collector enthusiast thing, but this is a perfect example. This knife was used in John Wick, the tactical god of tacticalness, right? Of course, it has to be designed as a weapon, right? Well, or it looks the part, right? And the people who, contacted Hawk saying, hey, we need something that really looks, they knew that, right? So people find out how much that box set costs, let alone the standard one is way less, right? The standard one's way less. It's still a lot of money though, right? So they see that and go, whoa, knives cost more than I thought. Listen, it's a knife, huh? My $60 Gerber something or other Super Tactical Ninja 9000 can split ribs and cut bad guys just as good. I know what's going on here. I know what's going on. My seasoned tactical brain tells me that they're trying to pull a fast one on us. That's right. You're all dumb and I'm smart. But that's why I've lived as long as I have actually I live a pretty comfortable, easy life, but I've made it as far as I have in this world because I've used my brain. Huh? I watch a lot of YouTube videos. No. The Hawk Deadlock is absolutely a knife that appeals to enthusiasts and collectors. Enthusiasts and collectors who are not stupid, but people who have been around and have been experiencing this part of the knife world for much, much longer than the people who are criticizing them generally. We all started in the same place. We all, whoa, this black tactical ninja knife, right? And then you're like, then there's other elements here. And then you discover that knives cost a little more money. And at first you're like, I don't know, the knife shouldn't cost that much. And then, well, maybe they got it in my favorite color. Okay, I'll go ahead and buy it. And oh, look at that. They got it special. This one's got better steel. And then you climb the ladder. You won't until you will. It's the same thing that I always say, right? And then eventually you realize a lot of this is just kind of nonsense, right? We have this urge to create a role for it, no matter how fantasy oriented it is, right? And whatever the hard limit in terms of value on that role is, that's how we decide that everybody who goes beyond that point is just dumb. It's not true. It just means you haven't got there yet. You don't have to get there, right? But you just haven't got there. There are elements that are involved in the overall cost of the knife that you have not come to a point yet where you can appreciate. And again, you don't have to, but you're not there, right? Now, obviously, there are examples of more expensive knives that are kind of ripoffs, right? But the truth about this guy is, and I think everybody knows it, yeah, those boxes are going to cost a lot of money, but you're silly to think that the value won't go through the roof as soon as they're gone. And the enthusiasts and collectors picking them up are picking it up for that reason. Not because they're like, I need this sharp $3,500 object because it makes me $3,500 more tactical than anyone else wielding a $60 knife. No, that's oversimplification. That's hilarious. The elements involved with more expensive knives, country of origin, precision manufacturing, right? Usually small batch. It depends on the size of the staff, right? If you got one or two guys making things in a garage and they're trying to run a business and they are not outsourcing anything, they're doing precision work. There's a huge difference in premium tolerances versus sloppy tolerances, right? Premium materials versus sloppy nothing materials, right? So if you've never been exposed to these elements to understand how they go into things, then all you're going to do is use the tools at your disposal to determine whether or not something is of value according to you, which for some reason we all use ourselves as the main measuring stick for whether or not something is authentic, right? For some reason, I've tried to remind myself, like, wait, do I know anything about this? Right? You immediately turn to yourself and you're like, my honed instincts, which have never been exposed to whatever subject it is that I'm trying to determine is authentic or not. And I go, I don't know about that. Or sometimes we have to stop and think, or maybe there's more to it, right? Maybe there's a little more to it. This is going to be a hard thing for some people to digest. But the truth is that a whole bunch of people have been buying knives that have been marketed as tactically superior to other designs, right? And you kind of got taken for a ride, right? Because they're just a knife that's painted black. A lot of it is that. And that even exists in the higher end knife world. I think it would do a lot of people a lot of good to just remember, you don't have to force it into a role. You can buy something because you think it's cool, and it doesn't need to go beyond that. In fact, I would argue that that's the most healthy mindset to have. Just admit to yourself that you want it because you think it's cool, right? And then climb the ladder or don't climb the ladder. Nobody is holding you down, forcing you to buy expensive knives, right? But what you think something is and what somebody else might think something is oftentimes is very, very different than what it was actually designed for and what it's actually being marketed as, right? Expensive knives are not a black and white situation that can be immediately solved by any new person peering in at the knife enthusiast world from the first time from the edges. And that's the same thing with anything, right? I mean, can you remember the first time you heard that a car sold for $1 million? $1 million for a car? All you do is drive it. Huh? Look at me, everybody. Did you hear what I said there? Huh? Bet you never even thought about that. What do you think here? Huh? Wisdom? It's basically, it's coming out of my pores like golden light. The wisdom, of course. Did you need to know that? I'll tell you right now, don't spend $1 million on a car because it drives. You know? My Honda Accord can also drive. I didn't pay $1 million for it. So who's the smart one now? You look like an idiot when you say stuff like that. You look like an idiot, pretending that there's not more involved, having never been exposed to any of the information. You literally saw the price tag and you saw the car, right? But this is a knee-jerk reaction to things. It's a knee-jerk reaction. Personally, would I ever spend $1 million on a car? I don't have $1 million to spend on a car, so I can't even answer that question. But I can tell you right now, if I won $1 billion in the lottery, even if I went down the road and find out, it turns out I'm not really the type of person to spend $1 million on a car, I'm way more likely to do it if I have it. So, circumstantially, things can change. We are not solidified. We are not the solidified creatures of habit that we pretend to be, right? This is self-reaffirmation. If your circumstances change and you are exposed to more information, correct and detailed information, you might change your mind on certain things, but you don't have to. What I know about cars and things that cost more money is that, generally speaking, there's more involved with the process of creation. Sometimes these things are picked up as investments by people who know that these types of things go up in value over time. Sometimes they're actually raised, sometimes they're not, right? Just because an object has a simple base function doesn't mean that it can't be something else. For example, there are plenty of influencers who buy expensive cars literally just to put them in the background of thumbnails or other videos, and they actually generate a substantial amount of money off of them, right? So I'm getting into the weeds of this, but things are not always as simple as they appear on the surface. And if you're new to knives, don't be fooled into thinking that anything that is black and tactical is the ultimate of the ultimate, or anything that is marketed as military grade or super ninja whatever. No. They know that people are more willing to buy stuff like that, right? Knife companies have been doing this, I would say, for probably a good 30 years, maybe longer, right? People are more willing to buy things that look like they are specialized, right? Especially if they are within their own personal realm of reasonable when it comes to value. And if you are new, the realm of reasonable is quite a bit under $100. So it should be no surprise that the vast majority of surface level stuff that's on the market between 30 and 60 bucks, right? At least the stuff that's thrown in your face, whether you're on the internet or you're walking around at Cabela's or Walmart, it should be no surprise that it looks so aggressive. It's on purpose, 100%, right? So, I want everybody to make sure, I want to get this point across. Obviously, there are knives that are designed as, efficient combat tools. I believe that 100%. And I think that there are certain knives that would probably put you at a slight advantage, right? But the vast majority of the stuff on the market is not that. And the most potent fact that I want to drive home here is we're not using this stuff. This stuff is not being used like this. It should be an obvious indicator that you can go to any retailer. Anybody can go to any retailer and buy this stuff if it's legal in your area. You don't need like a special pass, right? It's not like they're going to be like, are you level 100 in the Ninja Clan because you can't be here unless you are. They're not going to do that. Anybody can just go in and buy it, right? It's not that big of it. This is sensationalized and it's nonsense. The tactical, the super aggressive, it's all, right? It's okay to look at it and go, I see what they're doing here, but it is cool. I like it, right? Obviously I do because I buy a lot of this stuff, right? But I got colorful knives that function exactly the same way. I have super crazy colorful knives that would be just as tactical, but you can't hide in the shadows. I guess not. That's your one main advantage. You can hide in the shadows with a black knife. That is behind the dumpster at CVS, right? You can really, really give people a jump scare. Okay, that's going to be pretty much it. This was a fun one for me to talk about, right? Yeah, it's been 30 minutes. Wow, I've been going for a while here. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.